Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a winter storm that's going to be moving throughout parts of the Central Plains back through into the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, and then we're going to also have some ice issues along with that, and that's going to be especially present throughout parts of the Tennessee Valley and into parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well, where we might be dealing with a little bit of ice issues, and we're going to be timing this system out for you guys and giving an early look on it. This is going to be a storm that's going to be happening between Wednesday, mainly Thursday and Friday for a lot of areas, so we still have a couple days to go before we actually start out this event, and there is still a lot of uncertainty as to the track of this and exactly where that heaviest snow will set up and where the heaviest ice accumulations will set up. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. We have some winter weather advisories back through into the Northwest, as well as another area for Iowa, Illinois, northwestern Indiana, and southwestern Michigan. That's from a little band of snow that's moving right through this area, and it's not really associated with any system. It's mainly just a band of snow lying over there, and it's actually leading to a little bit of accumulation. We also have some more winter weather advisories back through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, back through Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, a little bit of Kentucky there, as well as southern Indiana and southern Ohio. That's from the system that we're going to be talking about in today's video. We also have some wind chill warnings and kind of that darker light blue, I guess you could call it there, over parts of northeastern Montana, northern North Dakota, and northern Minnesota. And then surrounding that in that lighter blue, that's where you have wind chill advisories because of those wind chills that are going to be closer to negative 50 degrees in some of those areas. Red flag warnings down for the Four Corners and back even into Texas there. And other than that, we really don't have much going on in terms of watches and warnings. Yesterday, your records for the entire continental United States, your high temperature was tied between three areas right in southeastern Florida. Atlantis, Florida got to 87 degrees. Fort Lauderdale in the airport got 87 degrees. And Pompano Beach in Florida got also to 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And the complete opposite there in northeastern Minnesota, right on the border between Wisconsin and Minnesota there, they got to negative 37 degrees, 16 miles east of Mission Creek, Minnesota. And then your highest rainfall report yesterday, that was in Bradford County, Florida, in north central Florida. They got 3.86 inches of rainfall, and that's all from thunderstorm activity that was rolling through much of Florida yesterday. And then we had your top snowfall report yesterday. We had that snowfall event over the coastal Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, but we also had a lot of snow back through the northern Rockies, and they got 24 inches of snowfall yesterday in 1 mile north of Avon, Montana. So they got a lot of snowfall yesterday over some of those areas, and that system is actually going to become the system that's right after this one over the eastern United States. So we just have a line of storms that are ready to go through into the eastern United States, and that are going to move very quickly. We have a cold and active pattern, and it's definitely starting to feel a lot like winter. Now, with yesterday's storm, just to give a quick recap, anywhere in those red dots, by the way, those are areas, snowfall reports from mainly lake effect, and that's not associated with this system. So the rest of them that are not, that don't have a red dot next to them, that's all from this system that was for yesterday. And we saw a main area, a main band of 6 to 8 inches plus anywhere in that yellow area, and then in the orange area, kind of, that's where we had 8 to 12 inches of snowfall. And our top report was in Pascagoula, Rhode Island, which is in northern Rhode Island. They got 14 inches of snowfall. Sharon, Massachusetts, they got 12.1 inches, 12 inches in Norfolk, Massachusetts there, and then also in Norwood, Massachusetts, they got 11.6 inches. Quincy, Massachusetts, they got 11.3 inches. So these are all areas that are kind of close to Boston and also close to Providence. So within that area was kind of the jackpot zone over southeastern New England, and you can see even into the southeast and the Mid-Atlantic, they got a lot of snow as well. If you go back into northern Georgia and northwestern and upstate parts of South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina got a little bit of snow, right around an inch. You go north of there, and they actually got closer to 4 or 5 inches of snowfall, according to some of those reports. You go up through the Tennessee Valley in the higher elevations, a couple areas got over 6 inches in those areas. So in a few areas, this really did outperform, and I'm actually quite happy with my snowfall forecast for this one. I didn't really show a 6+ inch area. I did mention a lot of times that there could be a 6 6+ inch band, and there certainly was over southeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, back through into New York, and into southeastern parts of New England. They got a lot of snowfall, 6+ inches of snowfall for those areas. So it was definitely an interesting setup from yesterday's storm, and there was definitely a couple areas that got a bit of a surprise, closer to 9 or 10 or even more inches of snowfall in some of those areas. So let's start talking about this system. We have cold air in place because we, of course, have that brutal cold up through the Midwest, and some of that cold air is going to leak into the eastern United States, and this is a prime setup if you live anywhere within this area right here if you like snow, because we don't have too much cold air that is pushing these to the south, but we also don't have too little cold air that this is pushing this to the north, and you're going to end up in rain. So we're right in between. We're right in that middle and prime zone for snow. So over the next at least a week or two, it looks like you're going to be in one of the best patterns that we've been in probably a couple years to get some good snow. We have an active pattern. We have the cold air, not too suppressive, but we also don't have too little cold air. We have right in between kind of that prime spot for cold air, and we definitely have a good general storm track for these events. So let's time this out. This would be by Tuesday night. We have some of that rain poking into the picture right here, where we still have some rain moving through into the Tennessee Valley, back through into Arkansas and Mississippi. We have that little minor snow system that's going to be moving through on Tuesday for the Northeast. So that's wrapping up. That's what you see on the top right hand corner of your screen, and we're going to start to see a little bit of ice actually develop. So northern Arkansas getting into the ice, and that starts to expand. So this would be by Wednesday morning. And the real issue, I think, not really with the snow. The snow will, of course, accumulate to maybe a few inches in a lot of areas. But we're mainly dealing with that ice accretion, and that could be a big issue. A couple areas could even get closer to a quarter of an inch, maybe even a little bit more of ice. So that could really be your big issue. And that'll really be a big concern if you live over the Tennessee Valley, especially if you live into Kentucky, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. That's really the biggest area of concern as of right now, and the ice is right in this pink area. That's where you're looking at freezing rain over those areas that'll lead to some ice developing. We have some of that snow in the blue to the north, and we're starting to see some of that snow fill into the map over the Ohio Valley. This would be by Wednesday early afternoon into the evening hours, and again, this is all on the European model. There's a couple different model outcomes, and we'll actually look at them later on in the video. So we still have some of that ice moving through from about West Virginia and Western Virginia all the way back through into Missouri, Arkansas, even a little bit of Kansas and Oklahoma there, and we're dealing with some of that decent ice accumulation over those areas, and it's just going to sit there. So you can see how the same areas, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, back through Kentucky, they've been in the ice accretion area for over closer to 24 hours by this point. So you're getting a steady amount of ice every single hour that's just adding up and adding up and adding up, and it's really not going to let up for at least a couple days, because we're seeing a lead low pressure system right here. We're seeing another wave of moisture trying to push up further to the north, so we're just resupplying some of that moisture into that cold air, and that's where you really get some of those biggest ice storms, and we have that setup in place. So we're dealing with some of that moderate to heavy snow back through into the mid-Atlantic, parts of the lower Ohio Valley, and then that snow does start to push a little bit further south, so does the ice, but still it's fairly moderate to heavy ice in some areas over Kentucky, Arkansas, Missouri, a little bit of Tennessee, Illinois, and Indiana, and exactly where that sets up is going to make a big difference, of course, and we're going to try and pinpoint that down for you guys over the next couple of days. So we're dealing with that snow setting up for mainly the mid-Atlantic, where you're getting the heaviest snowfall. By that point, we do start to get your system to move out of here. We're already seeing another system back through here. That should be mainly light and shouldn't cause too many issues, so you might get some a resupply of some colder and snowier air to move through over the Great Lakes and also over the Midwest, and then you're going to see this low pressure start to form offshore, so you're actually going to get somewhat of a nor'easter, another nor'easter to develop. So we're looking at, in those darker blues, moderate to even heavy snowfall from about northern Virginia to New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and that's going to continue to move up the coast, lighter to moderate snowfall as that continues northward. Luckily, the ice is finishing up by this point. This is Friday by this point, so we just went from Tuesday night to Friday evening, and it's still snowing over some of these areas, and And that's going to continue all the way through Friday night into Saturday morning. It's going to be a long duration event, kind of like what we saw with Winter Storm Orlena. We really don't have too many of the same dynamics as Winter Storm Orlena, but we do have a similar time frame. So we really have a similar amount of time. This might be a 2+ day system in some of these areas, and that might cause a lot of rain, snow, or even ice in a few areas. So here's that snowfall accumulation map from the European model, which we just looked at. Don't look at these amounts, but you can look at the amounts, of course, but really they're not too useful at this point. They're not really what I'm looking at when I'm analyzing these maps. What I'm looking at is just a brief way to kind of summarize where was heaviest hit by the system, and of course you see those more vibrant colors in the pinks for parts of the Mid-Atlantic, and that's where you're looking at, of course, the bullseye of the system according to the European model. And you see moderate snowfall pretty much everywhere around that, all the way up through into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and all the way up through into New England. That's where we were looking at a few inches or more of snowfall on the European model. Here's what the GFS model is showing. Fairly similar, a little bit further south, but generally same track. We have similar areas getting the heaviest snowfall. If not, it's actually a little bit more snowfall for the Ohio Valley. And here's what the Icon model is showing, the German model. So this one is a little bit weaker. It is suppressed a little bit further to the south. As you can see, these amounts are lower for the lower Great Lakes and the interior Northeast, but they are still quite high for these areas as you get into the Mid-Atlantic and the lower Ohio Valley. So we'll have to see how these models start to pick up on this system, whether they adopt what the Icon and the German model are showing, and what a couple other models are also showing, or if they go closer to what the European and the GFS model are showing with this. The Canadian model is somewhat similar to what the Icon model is showing, and it's showing a good area of 4 to 6 inches of snowfall back through into the Northeast. This is added on to a couple of minor systems, so you could probably subtract an inch or two off of this, but you're looking at generally that same area, actually a little bit further south, but it is kind of like what the Icon model was showing. It has some of those bands further to the south, and it is more banded in nature. It has a couple pockets seeing heavier snowfall. You go a little bit north of there, you're not seeing as much snowfall. So we definitely have a couple things to figure out here, and there are still a few different factors that we want to look at. Now, here's another resource that I like to look at, and this is the Weather Prediction Center's accumulation forecast by percentile. So usually on the 50th percentile, which is what would generally be their forecast, that's usually lower than what actually happens. It's actually much lower than what we've seen in previous events, where they only call for about 2 inches, and some areas get 6 inches. So I like to bump that up to the 75th percentile, and I think that's a lot more useful. And anywhere in the lightest green, 1 to 2 inches, 2 to 4 inches in the slightly darker green, 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 inches in the darkest green, and 6 to 8 inches in the dark blue there. And that's where you're looking at the Weather Prediction Center's forecast over the next 3 days. So this does not go out through the entire event. This is only through Thursday morning. Now, we have that wide swath of 2+ inches of snowfall according to them, and this is all from the Weather Prediction Center. And I do think they do really great work over there, and they do track these storms quite well. And they have a general area of 2 to 4 inches plus over these areas, so that's where they're a little bit more confident. The entire system has not even happened just yet. The system has only really moved throughout this area just yet by this time. This is only by Thursday morning. So here's the chances of seeing over. This is their ice accumulation forecast. So you can see in the lightest green, that's actually 1/100 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch, 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in that slightly darker color, and then 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of snow in that darkest green. And again, on that 70, actually this is their 50th percentile forecast, so not even the 75th percentile, and they have at least 1/4 of an inch for some of these areas. So this could definitely be a major event in terms of the ice accumulation, and that's really what I'm more concerned about instead of the snow. The snow, of course, a lot more people are kind of used to the snow. It's a lot harder to deal with ice because ice can cause a lot more roadway issues, and you can't shovel away ice like you can shovel away snow. Here's their day 4 outlook for the chance of getting 2 to 3 inches or more of snowfall. They have a 30 to 50% chance in that dark green, which is actually a fairly decent chance on their day 4 outlook, and a 50 to 70% chance over the mid-Atlantic there. And then if we look at their day 5 outlook, they have for a couple of areas in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, all the way up through Vermont and Rhode Island. They have some of those areas getting 10 to 30% chance, but they don't have any areas that are 30+% chance there. So it should be wrapping up by Friday, and some of those areas in New England especially could still be dealing with a little bit of lingering snowfall by that point. Now that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.